Hello, pre-algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here with your flipped lesson. We're going to do a quick review of what we talked about in class today because this should be purely review. You should already have mastered this. But we're going to talk about the coordinate plane and then we're going to learn to see how to graph it. And I want you to remember, first of all, that the coordinate plane is divided up into 4 quadrants. First quadrant is here. Second quadrant is here. The third quadrant is down here. And the fourth quadrant is here. Okay, they go counterclockwise. They start in the upper right corner and then they go counterclockwise. Now, there are points on this coordinate plane, and the points aren't just located at intersections. There are points every single place, everywhere. There's an infinite number of points. There's points here, 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 here. A lot of times kids just think there are only points at the intersections. That's just simply not true. Now, each point has to have 2 coordinates. It has to have an x-coordinate, which is your horizontal movement, okay? And then you have to have a y-coordinate, which is your vertical movement, okay? Now, we write our points like this, x, comma, y. We're not actually going to write x and y in, we're going to put values. But what they do is x tells us our horizontal movement. So for example, if our x-coordinate was 2, from this point here called the origin, which is a fancy way to say beginning, we would move 2 along the x-axis. Notice the x here. We would move 2 in the x direction. And then our y-coordinate tells us our vertical movement. Let's pretend our number was 5. Well, the point 2, 5, we'd go 2 in the x direction, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the y direction, and that is the point 2, 5. Okay? If the point were something like, say, negative 3, 4, we would go 3 in the negative direction in that for x, and then up 1, 2, 3, 4 for the y value. So that would be negative 3, 4. Okay? If we had the point, say, negative 2, negative 1, we would go negative 2 in the x direction and then negative 1 in the y direction. And there we go, negative 2, negative 1. And again, this should all be review. Those of you get it wrong, you're trying to tell me you don't know your alphabet. Your x movement comes first, and then your y movement comes second. X is horizontal, and y is vertical. Let's say this was the point 7, negative 3. Well, we would go 7 in the x direction, which I think 9, 8, 7. 1, 2, 3. Right there. So that would be 7, negative 3. Now, one thing I want to point out about it, when you're in the first quadrant, notice I got 2, 5. Your point is positive and positive. Both coordinates are positive. When you're in the second quadrant, your coordinates are a negative and then a positive. I'm not going to make you memorize that, but it's something you should be paying attention to as you do your problems. All right, the third quadrant, both points are negative, both coordinates, excuse me. And in the fourth quadrant, we have a positive x and then a negative y. And remember, it's alphabetical, x before y in the alphabet, so the x-coordinate comes first. All right, that's the review. Now, let's see how we use it to graph an equation. I have this equation here, y equals 2x minus 3. Now, I know some teachers teach you to put 1 in for x, 2 in for x, 3 in for x. I don't like to do that. I like to work smart, not hard. Math is made to be smart, but you can make it as hard as you want. And if you make it hard, it will be hard. I like to make it easy. First thing I like to do, whenever I put in an x value, I love to put in 0. Most of the time, 0 makes my math come out more simply. Now, I want x to be 0, so in the equation y equals 2x minus 3, I am going to substitute 0 in for x. and then I'm going to solve for y. So when I do that, I'm going to get y equals 2 times 0 is 0. Bring down the minus 3. And that means y is going to equal 0 minus 3. Well, 0 minus 3 should be negative 3. And there you go. My first point I know is 0 in the x direction. Notice I'm not moving. And I go 1, 2, 3 in the y direction, the negative y direction. There's the point 0, negative 3. Okay. I'm going to draw a line to divide my work. Now, I love to do a cheat. I love to make it simple. It was pretty easy to put 0 in for x. I'm going to plug 0 in for y. Yeah, watch what's going to happen. I'm going to put 0 in for y, and I'm going to get 0 equals 2x minus 3. I'm going to solve for x, just a two-step equation, which we just finished. You guys should be pretty good at these by now. And I'm going to get 2x equals 3. Then I'm going to divide by 2. And I'm going to get x is going to equal 1.5. So I'll write 1.5 here. Well, I'm going to graph the point 1.5. So I'm going to go 1 in the x direction, then another half, and then 0 in the y direction. There's the second point. Now the third point is going to be up to me. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to erase this work. I don't ever want you to erase work. I want you to show it at the bottom. Okay. And this time I'll tell you what. I'm going to put in, say, 4 for x. Okay. So I'm going to get y equals 2 times 4 minus 3. So I'm going to get y equals 8 minus 3, and y equals 5. That means the point 4, 5 is on my graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, excuse me. 1, 2, 4, and then I got to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And watch this. When I go to draw my line, it's going to come out pretty darn good. Look at that. All 3 points end up on the same line. By the way, I need arrowheads on both ends of my line. I haven't figured out how to put that in memory yet. So let me change that to an arrowhead, and there you go. It's that simple. Now I could have put in any x values that I want. I just picked the ones that I thought would be easiest. 0 for x, and then I chose to cheat and put 0 in for y. And I'm not afraid of the fraction, so I graphed it, and then I could have picked any other thing for x. I could have picked negative 2, I could have picked negative 5, I could have picked 6, or something like that. All right, let's do another example here. All right, here we go. I'm going to plug 0 in for x. My equation is y equals negative 3x plus 1. And I'm going to get y is going to equal negative 3 times 0 plus 1. I'm going to solve y equals 0 plus 1, so y equals 1. Put my 1 in over here, so the point 0 in the x direction, 1 in the y direction is on the graph. All right, this is where my cheat comes in. I love to put 0 in for y. I'm not afraid of getting a fraction. I'm going to get 0 equals negative 3x plus 1. Subtract 1 from both sides. I'll get negative 1 equals negative 3x. I'll divide both sides by negative 3. And I'm going to get x equals positive 1/3. Well, I go 1/3 of the way between 0 and 1, and then 0 in the y direction. And there we go. All right, I do need one more x value, and this time I think I'm going to go ahead and plug in, say, 3. So I'm going to get y equals negative 3 times 3 plus 1. Y is going to equal negative 9 plus 1. Y is going to equal negative 8. And so I'm going to go to where 3 and negative 8 match up, which will be right there. And I'm going to draw my line. And there's my line drawn for you. And notice it goes through the point 0, 1, the point 1/3, 0, even though it's really difficult to plot that accurately, it's right there. And then there's the point 3, negative 8. Okay, one more example for you, and you're going to see why my little cheat works really well on this one. I'm going to plug, my equation is 2x plus 3y equals 6. I'm going to plug 0 in for x. We get 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 6. This will turn to 0, so I'll have 3y equals 6. I'll divide by 3 on both sides, and then y will equal 2. All right, I get 0, 1, 2 right there. Draw my line. I'm going to plug 0 in for y. I'm going to get 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 6. This here is going to turn to 0, so I'll get 2x equals 6. I'll divide by 2, and I'm going to get x equals 3. So 3 zeros on my line, so 1, 2, 3, 0. All right. Now for this last one, I'm going to take the negative of the x coordinate of the previous one. X was 3, I'm going to take negative 3. So I'm going to put 2 times negative 3 plus 3y equals 6. This will turn into negative 6 plus 3y equals 6. I'll add 6 to both sides. I'll get 3y equals 12. I'll divide both sides by 3. So y is going to equal 4. So I'll go to negative 3, positive 4. So 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And there we go. I draw my line. And notice it goes through the 3 points that I graphed. Okay? Now I just want to make one small comment. There are an infinite number of points on this line, not just the 3 I'm showing. If you pick different x and y values, you are going to get different points, but the same line if you're using the same equation. All right, you might want to watch this video more than once. Mr. Lawrence signing off. Good night, everybody.